Everyone in Millbrook County thought Jake was wasting his time, while other farmers were fixing tractors, planting corn, and trying to stay ahead of another tough season. Jake was driving around collecting dead beehives, old ones, broken ones, completely abandoned. And to most people, that wasn't just strange. It was pointless. Because around here, if something stops producing, you don't hold on to it. You replace it. You move on. That's how farming works. It's not about hope. It's about results. And those hives, they hadn't produced anything in a long time. No honey, no pollination, no life. At least, that's what everyone believed. Millbrook County sits between wide-open fields and long gravel roads. The kind of place where everyone knows your name before you even introduce yourself. Mornings start early. Pickup trucks roll out before sunrise. Coffee is strong. Work is harder. And reputation? That matters more than anything. If people think you're wasting time, it sticks. And lately, that's exactly what people were saying about Jake. It hadn't always been like this. A few years back, beekeeping was still part of life here. Not massive operations, but enough to keep farms running. Apples, blueberries, alfalfa. All of it depended on pollination. Then something changed. Hives started failing. At first, it was just a few, then more. Then entire colonies disappeared without warning. No piles of dead bees. No clear explanation. Just silence. Farmers tried to fix it. They replaced queens, moved hives, tried different methods, but nothing worked. And eventually, they stopped trying. One by one, people sold their equipment or left their hives behind barns to rot. Because in a place like this, you don't keep investing in something that keeps failing. But Jake didn't see it that way. Where others saw failure, he saw a pattern. Where others saw dead hives, he saw something unfinished. His father used to keep bees. Nothing big, but enough to teach him something most people never learned. A hive doesn't just die for no reason. Something always causes it. So when everyone else walked away, Jake leaned in. It started with one hive. Old, cracked, forgotten behind a collapsing barn. Most people didn't even notice it anymore. But Jake did. He loaded it into his truck and took it home. The wood was dry, the frames were empty. No movement, no sound, dead. At least, that's how it looked. But something about it didn't sit right with him. And that feeling was the beginning of everything. Jake set the hive down behind his house and just stood there for a while. Most people would have thrown it out or burned it, but he didn't. He started cleaning it, slowly, carefully, fixing what he could, replacing what was too far gone. He didn't rush, didn't force anything. He just gave it another chance. Then he placed it out in the open field and waited. Days passed. Nothing. Weeks passed. Still nothing. Neighbors started noticing. "You still messing with that thing?" one of them called out from across the fence. Jake just nodded. Didn't argue. Didn't explain. Because the truth was, he didn't have proof. Only a feeling. And that wasn't enough for anyone else, but it was enough for him. Then something changed. Instead of stopping, he doubled down. He started driving across the county, knocking on doors, asking people if they had any old hives they didn't want anymore. Most didn't hesitate. They gave them away for free. To them, it was junk. To Jake, it was a chance. Truckload after truckload, he brought them home, stacking them behind his house, repairing them one by one. People started talking. Some laughed. Some shook their heads. Others just assumed he'd eventually give up like everyone else. But he didn't. Because while everyone else was looking at what was gone, Jake started paying attention to what was still there. Out near the edge of an overgrown field, he saw it. A single bee. Then another. Small. Easy to miss. But real and alive. That's when everything shifted. Because if bees were truly disappearing, they wouldn't be there at all. But they were. Which meant one thing. They weren't gone. They were choosing where to stay, choosing where to leave. And if Jake could figure out why, then maybe, just maybe, those empty hives weren't the end of the story. That realization changed everything. Jake stopped guessing and started observing. He paid attention to the land, the plants, the areas where bees still showed up, and the places they avoided. He noticed that wildflowers still attracted them, untouched land, natural growth, places without heavy chemical use. So he adjusted. He moved his hives closer to those areas, planted pollinator-friendly flowers, created space that felt natural again, not forced, not artificial, just right. Then he waited. Again. Not days this time, not weeks, but long enough that most people would have quit. Then one morning, it happened. A single bee, circling, then landing, exploring. It didn't leave. The next day, more came. By the end of the week, the hive wasn't empty anymore. It was alive. At first, nobody believed it, until they saw it, with their own eyes. Bees moving in and out, building, working, restoring what had once been abandoned. The same people who laughed, now they were asking questions. What did you do different? How did you bring them back? But Jake didn't do anything magical. He just understood something others didn't. The hives were never truly dead. They were just in the wrong conditions. Weeks turned into months. More hives came back. Fields improved. Crops got stronger. And slowly, so did the belief in something people had already given up on. And maybe that's the real lesson. Not just about bees, but about anything. Sometimes, what looks like failure is just something waiting for the right conditions to come back to life. And the only difference between the people who see it and the ones who don't is patience. Because in the end, success doesn't always come from doing more. Sometimes, it comes from understanding better and refusing to walk away too soon.